Hello everyone, my name is Ian. Welcome back to my YouTube channel in brief book and film reviews. So today's Monday and I want to come online and give a review to a very entertaining book that I read a long time ago now, actually, probably about 8 years ago. To be honest with you, it's a long time since I read that book. But I thought it was definitely one. I was just looking over some books that I hadn't given a review to yet, and I thought that were really good books that I thought people who haven't read them. I was thinking of maybe possibly getting a book and that perhaps they could read this one, like a sports book. So this book is called How Not to Be a Football Millionaire. This book was written by Daniel McDonnell and Keith Gillespie. It's about the story and the life of Keith Gillespie. He was a former Newcastle United and Manchester United winger. So before we get into it, I'd just like to thank everyone for the subscriptions. I just checked online there and I'm 290 subscriptions up. That's brilliant. I only envisaged I'd probably ever get about like 60 or 70 in that, so the more the merrier, and hopefully I can get to that 300, which would be a good landmark. So so the book itself was published by Trinity Media Sports Media, and it was released on the 7th of October 2013, so that's 10 years old, and the pages were 320. As I said before, the author was Daniel McDonnell and Keith Gillespie himself. It was a really good read. Starts off, so Keith Gillespie I think he was born in Coleraine in the north of Ireland, and he would have played for would have started his career off at Manchester United and would have been known as being one of the Fergie Fledglings, like David Beckham, Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Ryan Giggs, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, that kind of class, and that, he also played for Northern Ireland as an international, and I think he's ranked as the 6th highest appearances, capped player for the Northern Ireland. So he had a really good career. Unfortunately, during that time, like it was before, and probably is to a certain extent still at the moment, and that with so many players in that area of the 90s, they had so much money, they really didn't know what to do with it. A lot of people gambled it. You had stories before. One of the first books I ever read was actually Addicted by Tony Adams, and it's very kind of similar to that. Unfortunately, there was a lot more tragedy in that book, in Tony Adams one, than what there would be in this one. But very kind of similar kind of situations as you hear. Also, footballers like Paul Merson, Paul Gascoigne having addiction problems and stuff, and that Keith Gillespie was no different. Unfortunately for him, it was a gambling addiction, which is very costly. Especially when you don't know what you're doing and gambling, and the people around you who are meant to be looking after you aren't looking after you, and that you're looking after your interests, and that they're kind of like a blood sucking off you, and that knowing how good you are as a footballer, how much money you'd be, how many lucrative contracts you'd have to attract in your career. Keith Gillespie probably should have been known as one of the greats, just up there with Ryan Giggs. As a player, and to me, I think he was probably as good as Ryan Giggs. However, unfortunately, when he went down the road of the gambling, kind of everything goes down south afterwards. He was also accused of rape, gang rape, in a training resort centre in Manga in Spain, and over the course of time, the career took a nosedive. So within the book, it talks about his childhood and stuff, and that, where he grew up and stuff, and then his experience in the Manchester United academy. He then goes on to talk about his international career, how Catholics and Protestants kind of like mixed. There was never any animosity between either Catholic or Protestant who decided and who declared for playing in the north of for Northern Ireland at the time. It has changed now. A lot more Catholics would opt because I have dual passport citizenship, they can, most of them, like James McLean and a lot of others, would probably declare for the Republic of Ireland. They would see that as being a stronger side, and would have more chances of getting into the major trophies. At the moment, that hasn't come to fruition in that for a long while and that, but even so, that was the mindset. This is the mindset these days. But back then, it was different in that, he kind of was settled in with his team, and he never really entertained the sectarianism at all. And they were earning a lot of money. A lot of sectarianism comes from, for me, it comes from poverty, and that poverty, not just of wealth but of the mind as well, and that that's where sectarianism comes from, and that hate and all that. And so why would you want to hate anybody? If you're a famous footballer, you get to date all the women that you want, drive all the luxury cars that you want, and a big fat paycheck at the end of the week. It makes no sense. So he was in a team full of guys who were pretty much the same as himself, and that and then he goes on to talk about he step into kind of like alcohol and stuff, and that's taken over. It's taken over his kind of like training and stuff, and that, and then goes into the gambling and stuff, and how it all started, how bad it started to get at Newcastle as well, where a certain coach who was looking out for him was meant to be looking out for him, then really didn't appear to be looking out for him properly, and that's unfortunately when you have guys making so much money, and quite kind of immature in the mind, in a sense, if you will, and that they kind of get manipulated by a lot of people around them. So it's a little bit different today, because they have all these things there where they have like money managers, coach managers for professional footballers, because they make so much money. They're able to afford this coach money manager. So I say make sure that they have they're comfortable after the football and stuff, and that. All in all, I thought it was a really, really good book, and that some really good stories, and that he actually made me laugh, and that with a few stories, and that one particular one, and that he was saying about he was playing for Newcastle, and he scored like I think maybe the winning goal or something, or a hat-trick or something, and that night that day he was coming out of the dressing room, and there was a guy, a Newcastle United fan, and he basically says get your autograph and all the rest of it, and took the photo, took the autograph and stuff, and that, and little did he know that Keith was invited back to his house to make love to his girlfriend. Only for your man to walk in, say, "Hey, you're Keith Gillespie." I said, really, really funny, really good stories in it, and he's the type of person I'd love to sit down and have a pint with, and that, I'm sure he actually finished up his playing career actually just down the road from where I am live at the moment, and that, in a town called Longford Town FC, and that, which is basically the graveyard of Irish football, to be honest with you. But he in many fans' memories, he will minds. He would have given them great memories, playing both for Manchester United and also both for Newcastle United. Really good book, very entertaining, very sad as well. Dealing with it, he did manage to get his help from his sister in the end and stuff, and that, in terms of sorting out his finances, and something good did come out of a tragedy. He actually went on to kind of settle down his finances, and he, I think, had a baby daughter or something, and that eventually as well, and that. So without spoiling it or going too much into detail, really, really good book. I think that everyone should, well, if you're interested in sports book and that, and you've kind of looked at it before, you might see it and say, I don't know about that, go and have a read of it. It's a really entertaining book, and that. I've read many a sports book that haven't lived up to the what I thought it would have been, and that, but this one didn't let down, and that was really good. A good performance also as well from Daniel McDonnell, and that, as an author and stuff, and he really got into it with Keith Gillespie and that. So that's it. That's my review for the week. I'll give all the description. I'll actually send you a video also as well in the description box of Keith Gillespie's talents as a footballer, and that's it. I hope everyone's doing well, staying blessed, positive, gratuitous, and keeping the faith always, and sure, hopefully I'll see you again next week, and until then, take care, all the best.